Hello and welcome back to our channel. All I can say is she has done it again. Sonnet's August Makers Box has everything you need at your fingertips to create stunning home decor for the transition from summer to fall. We will talk more about what comes in each subscription box, but just know this box will kickstart your creativity and help you to think, well, outside the box. I'm Cindy, my husband is Chris. Welcome to CNC DIY Factory. We are jumping right into the project that I could not wait to create. Connie, the painted photographer, creates 2 exclusive rice papers for the Makers Box each month, and this paper is called Artist Garden. When I saw this, I knew immediately I wanted to make some coasters for my studio. I'm using 2 wood coasters from Dollar General that I had in my stash. Sonnet curates 2 paint colors from the Debbie's DIY paints for each month's box. This color is beadboard. I'm applying 1 coat of paint to the top of both coasters so that when I decoupage the rice paper to the tops of these coasters, the colors will stay true and not blend with the background. The second DIY color is Eden, and I am blending it with the beadboard and applying it to the edges and the backs of both coasters. Connie uses DIY paints when she creates her rice papers, and I am trying to blend these 2 colors along the edges and the back to extend the background that she created in this rice paper. I love that Connie includes a 3-up design each month. This means that I can create multiple projects from 1 rice paper. Once I have my rice paper in place, I will use the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel to adhere them to the coasters. I love DIY liquid patina for decoupaging the lighter weight papers, but for the rice paper, I've found that this gel works so much nicer. It does not take as much product, and I do not feel I need to mist the rice paper to avoid any wrinkles when laying it down. Once the rice paper is adhered and dried, I will use my finger sander to sand off the excess paper around the edges. This finger sander is a game changer, and if you don't have one yet, I'll link it in the description box below so you can go get one too. This Bright Tones is a water-based polyurethane sealer and top coat, and it's a new to me product that I'm trying out to see if it will protect the coasters from absorbing moisture. Now, I know that that's what the coasters are for, but I want to see how this product holds up. I'll have it linked in the description box as well if you want to try it too. It comes in gloss and matte, and I'm using the gloss formula. I'll apply 3 coats for maximum coverage and protection. I think this is my favorite project. I love the colors and the creativity Connie portrays in her painting. In this project, I'm using a thrifted terracotta pot along with one of the digital press papers that Sonnet designs. This is a new feature this year to Sonnet's Makers Box. She creates 5 different images that you can print out at home. There is always a theme that correlates with the entire box, and this month is a celebration of all things garden. I print my digital press papers on rice paper, and I'm using the wet tear method to tear out just the part of the rice paper that I want to use. This leaves an organic looking edge around the paper, and it helps to blend into the surface better to leave a more natural look. To help keep the color true in the image and block the terracotta color from showing through the rice paper, I'm painting the back of the rice paper with the Fusion Mineral Paint Raw Silk. This is one of the 2 colors from Fusion included in the Makers Box this month. Once the paint is dry, I will use the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel and apply that to the back of the rice paper over the raw silk. I'm applying it to the rice paper instead of the clay pot so that I do not have a halo effect around the rice paper once it is applied. I want to create a weathered look to this clay pot, so I'm using a fluffy, well-loved brush And starting with the raw silk paint, I will stipple the paint around the entire surface. Now I'm not trying to get full coverage. In fact, I want some of that terracotta to show through. Once I have the coverage that I'm looking for, I will use the Fusion Mineral paint in Homestead Blue. Now this is the second Fusion color included in this month's Maker's Box. I will stipple this in random areas around the clay pot, trying to mimic the look of a beautifully patinaed pot. After I have applied the paint and I am happy with the way it looks, I will seal the entire pot with the DIY clear wax. Now the Fusion paint has a built-in sealer, so this is not necessary for the paint, but I'm going to follow that clear wax up with the Howard's Chalk Teak wax in dark. This is going to create a grungy effect and hopefully make it look a little more authentically aged terracotta pot. To give a bit more variation to the patina look, I'm adding in the DIY Shipwrecked wax. This is a beautiful turquoise wax that will add just a little bit of a different shade to the patina. Then to add a bit more texture and grunge, I will go over all of the waxes with the DIY Decrepit Dust and blend that in just a little bit. I think this turned out pretty good. Let me know what you think in the comments. In this project, I will be using one of our CNC DIY Factory large arched frame DIY kits. This has 3 layers of laser cut wood that you can use all together or in separate projects. It also comes with a spindle kickstand and instructions on how to assemble the kit, and this can be found on our website at cncdiyfactory.com, and it will be linked in the description box below. For this project, I am using the backer board and one of the arches. I painted the arch with 1 coat of Fusion's raw silk paint, and I will use the Sweet Pickins milk paint in Haberdash that came in the Maker's Box for the back and the kickstand. When using the milk paint on raw wood, I have found that adding a layer of paint creates a barrier between the wood and the milk paint, and it gives me the crackle and crazing effect that I'm looking for when using milk paint. I'm using the DIY paint in Sandy Blonde to create the barrier between the wood and the milk paint. Once the DIY paint is dry, I will apply 2 coats of the milk paint and then use my heat gun between each coat to force the milk paint to crackle and craze as it dries. Now, it's not necessary to use a heat gun on your milk paint, but I'm impatient and I like the effect that it gives. When I opened my Maker's Box and saw the 2 exclusive decoupage papers from Recycled Treasures, I thought of sunflowers with a blue sky background. So I am creating a messy blended look with the 2 Fusion paint colors that were in the box that pair so beautifully with these papers. Royce is masterful in her creations, and these rice papers are a testament to that. This one is called Field and Feather, and I think it would be beautiful on the arched piece. So I'm cutting out a section to decoupage onto the arched frame piece. Now normally I use the Debbie's DIY liquid patina to decoupage these papers, but I had the Fusion decoupage and transfer gel out, and so I just decided to use this instead. I start with a starter strip and I lay down a layer of the decoupage gel. Then I spritz the paper with my water mister to relax the fibers. Then I lay the paper over the gel and smooth it out with my paintbrush. The next time I am working with a surface that has a center hole like this, I will try to remember to spritz the entire paper and not just the areas that will be decoupaged. As you saw, I only spritzed the sides of the paper. This creates tension in the center and keeps the paper from laying down smoothly, and I struggled a bit to work out the wrinkles that I created along the edges of the arched frame. It all worked out, but just a note to self to spritz the entire paper. Once the paper is completely dry, I will use a craft blade and my finger sander to go around the outside and the inside of the arched frame to remove all of the excess paper. To create the sunflowers, I'm going to use the IOD Sunflowers mold and something I hardly ever use, the IOD Air Dry Clay. Now the reason I don't use it often is because it takes time to dry, and I am impatient. I am also not one who enjoys the feel of the clay on their hands, but I'm going to use what I have and give it another try. I dusted my mold with cornstarch so that the clay releases from the mold easily. Then I smooth the clay out to the micro-rim edges of the image. Then I flip my mold over and the sunflower just falls out perfectly. Once I have all of the molds cast, I lay them on the arched frame. The clay can form to any shape at this point. Just be gentle when applying pressure to the clay so as not to distort the beautiful details in the clay. While the clay is still wet, I am using various colors from Debbie's DIY paint to add some color to the flowers. This will also help the clay from drying too quickly and cracking. Then I will leave the molds on the frame to dry overnight. The next day when I came back to this project, the clay was completely dry and had formed to the edge of the arch. Now to finish the background, I am taking the same DIY sandy blonde paint and a chip brush and dry brushing across the blue background. I want to bring in some of the cross-hatching from the decoupage paper to the background. To give the background even more texture and interest, I am using the IOD Kindest Regards stamp and the IOD Stone Gray ink. I am stamping the background in random sections using the entire stamp. Now you might think that I'm done, but just wait. This needs a little something something to the background. I taped off the center section of the backer board, and I am going to be adding a stencil from Essential Stencil's spring collection called Sunflower Floral Set. Using various DIY paints and a stencil brush, I will lightly stencil the sunflowers onto the backer board. I am only going over it with one very light coat of paint for each color. I want these to look distressed and not to be the focal point of the frame. To stencil, you can use any type of paint you choose. I am using the DIY clay-based paint because that is what I used for the clay sunflower molds, and I want all of the tones to complement each other. Okay, let's take the stencil off and see how it turned out. Oh, I love it. I wanted just a hint of color in the background to really make the molds pop. One thing about creating, you have to be able to pivot. The placement of the stencil and the original placement of the molds was not working for me, so I had to play around with the placement of the molds for a more cohesive look. Once I had that figured out, I needed to seal the background because I used the DIY paint and it can be reactivated with water. I'm using Wise Owl varnish in matte finish. Okay, let's put this together and see how it turned out. I am using the Titebond Quick and Thick glue along with the Stick Fast CA glue to assemble the frame and the kickstand. If you noticed earlier with the molds, when I painted the flowers, I did not go all the way to the edges. So I will have a little more painting to do to finish these up and give them a little more shading before adhering them to the frame. I'll use the Titebond Quick and Thick glue and apply this to the back of the molds, being sure to spread the glue evenly all the way to the edges of the dried clay. The Titebond Quick and Thick sets up in about 10 minutes, and then I can come in with the DIY clear wax, followed up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark to give the flowers more dimension and a little bit of grunge. You will notice that I have a tag added to the bottom of the frame. I did not show this in the video, but I cut this on my laser and I painted it the same way I did the back of the frame and the kickstand with the sandy blonde and the milk paint. I also stamped it with the redesign by Prima stamp called Fall Sweet Fall and the IOD black ink. It says, "I love fall most of all." To keep the entire piece cohesive, I will apply the dark wax to the entire frame and wipe back the excess. This project took a long time to complete with a lot of steps, but I think this is a beautiful transition piece from summer into fall. I would love to know your thoughts. Let's take one last look at the 3 projects in this video using the papers and paints in Sonnet's August Makers Box. If you would like to subscribe to this monthly box, you can skip that wait list and use my affiliate link in the description box below. I can tell you every month it is a gift I give to myself and it helps me to kickstart my creativity every time. Thanks so much for watching. I hope I have inspired you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, keep practicing random acts of crafting. Bye for now.